Well, hello, friend. Welcome. If this is your first time, welcome. If you are a subscriber, welcome back. This is Life and Faith Chats. Today we have a continuation of our interview with best-selling author Barry Roberts Ross. Thank you for joining me. Let's get into our chat. I am your host. My name is Joy.
And that's all that represents. But if you got something else going on and it's not on that standard of care list, you have to bring it up. They're not going to necessarily find it because they're not running the test to find that.
What did the doctor tell you when you said, "What do we do now?"
Right. So the doctor, and I had to set this up. When they have news like that for you, they take you to the far part of the office, close the door. No, there's nothing medical in that room. It is just a conference room or a meeting room. And so when they took me back there, and I'm waiting for him to come, and they had this big box of Kleenex in the middle of the table. And I'm like, so what's the Kleenex for? Okay, nothing else in here at all but me and a box of Kleenex. And so um, when he came in and he said, "I've got bad news," and I said, "Okay." And he said, "You have cancer. It has spread according to the scans and the test and everything. And it's late stage. It's like stage 4." And I was like,
Wow.
"Stage 4?" And he said, "Yes." And I said, "Okay, so I'm still not, I know that stage 4 wasn't good, but I'm still not grasping, the depth of it." And I said, "Okay, so what are we going to do about it?" And he said, "Well, I'm an ENT, and I talked to the ENT oncologist, which is different, and they don't take your insurance." And I said, "Okay." He said, "The best guy, he's had a lot of success with this, but he doesn't take your insurance at Mayo Clinic." And I said, "Okay, so what are we going to do about this?" And he said, "Well, the second best guy, I know him from college and so and so and so and so, but he doesn't take your insurance." And I said, "Okay, so what are we going to do about this? If they don't take my insurance, okay, but that's not answering my question." He said, "Well, I looked in a book of doctors out here in Phoenix, found this guy, and I don't know him, don't know anything about him, but he takes your insurance."
That's so scary.
And I said, "Well, okay." And he said, "But he can't see you for 6 more weeks." I said, "Excuse me?" He said, "He can't see you for 6 more weeks." I said, "Well," I said, "this is not good." And that's what I told him. I said, "I'm having a save Barry's life conversation here, and you're having an insurance conversation. And they're running parallel. They're not even touching. You know, everybody over here doesn't take my insurance. I'm looking to have my life saved, and we're going down the road with nothing crossing or whatever." So he said, "Well, I'm sorry. That's just the way it is." So I said, "Okay, here's what's going to happen." I said, "You keep working with my husband because you are going to be giving him a biopsy in a day or two." I said, "But what I want you to do is to give me my CAT scans, is to give me my scans, is to give me my labs, and anything else that you have." I said, "Because you and I can't continue. You and I can't continue. I thank you for coming up with the diagnosis, but Barry has got to move forward in save her life mode." And that's not what's happening here. So he did. He told the nurse to bring me everything in. And I got out to the car, and I'm still not upset, because he pushed, that's what he did. He pushed the Kleenex over to me thinking I was going to cry. And I pushed it back because it was not time to cry. I'm very, very operational, very tactical in how I do things. And that was not the time to cry. I had to keep myself together because I needed answers. So I got in my car. I called my daughter, who was here in Atlanta. I'm in Atlanta now. And I told her, and when she answered the phone, she's like, "Oh, do you have news about Papa Charles, my husband?" She said, "Do you have news about him?" And I said, "No." I said, "I have news about mommy." And she said, "Well, what's going on?" I said, "Well, Brooke, 10 minutes ago, the guy told me, doctor told me I have cancer." She said, "What? No, mommy, you don't have cancer." I said, "He told me I have cancer. He told me it's late stage and that, they don't take my insurance." She said, "Oh gosh." She said, "Mommy," she said, "go to the nearest Staples or someplace, fax me everything he gave you, and overnight the scans to me." Because she was working here in Atlanta at a Winship Cancer Center, which is part of Emory University.
Okay.
So I did that and I faxed her the stuff. And within 10 minutes, she called me back. And because I just sat in the car, and in 10 minutes, she called me back and she said, "Mommy, this is very bad. It's very serious." And I talked to the doctors here, and they told me to fly you out tonight to come to Atlanta.
Wow.
And I said, "Wow, okay." I said, "But I can't fly out tonight." I said, "Because Charles is still here. He's still sick." I said, "I need a day or two to put together a plan." So I came home and I couldn't tell my husband. He was so sick and so weak, and I couldn't tell him. So I
Mm.
started calling his relatives in Virginia, and I reached one of his sisters and I told her the madness that was unfolding. And she said, "I'll be there tomorrow and I will take care of him, and you get on the plane to fly to Atlanta." So,
Wow.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, may I have a report? I'm wondering, how do you process all of that? But I was making a point. I was talking about you being, like you said, even how you handled it. You said it wasn't a time to cry. You knew how to ask for your records. You were very methodical. You called, your daughter knew what to do. For someone who is not as educated or who does not have the option, and you have a doctor tell you that,
Mhm.
what, okay, please put your hat back on as an
Sure.
advocate. What, what does that person, what do they do?
They go get a second opinion. Um, they go get, I tell everybody, if you get a cancer diagnosis, get 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 two cancer diagnoses, okay? Get a second opinion. You have a right. I don't care what kind of insurance you have a right for a second opinion, and they are supposed to pay for it, or they will pay for it, especially something that's life threatening or something that's like, something chronic, because some cancers are chronic. Some are life threatening and some just have to be dealt with. But don't listen to one doctor. You need a second opinion. And each doctor should give you options. Okay. So when your second opinion, so if you have breast cancer and you go to the first doctor and they say, "Oh, you need a mastectomy or you need a double mastectomy," you don't sign up for that day. You go to another doctor, and if they say you need a double mastectomy, then you might need one. But they might say you need a mastectomy in one breast and a lumpectomy in the other.
Mm.
Or they might say you just need surgery, or you just need chemo, or you just need radiation. They should be able to give you different alternatives for your diagnosis. And I would not recommend you just take the first diagnosis and the first whatever they're going to do for you.
So second opinion,
Very
definitely.
important.
And then doctors must give you options so that
Options. That's correct. Options.
thank you for sharing that. Okay, have another question
Yeah.
on it. All right. Are you a person of faith?
Oh, absolutely. There is no way. I am a person of faith. My husband is a person of faith. We are a family of faith. Okay. And when we talk about two people who, about what we went through and how we got through. Because everybody goes through, but not everybody gets through. And so when we talk about it, we come from a faith perspective. We come from a God. I remember, and I wrote about it in the book, when I got to Atlanta, and my daughter took me to her church. So I came in, even before I went to the hospital, I came in on a Saturday. The next day we went to her church. And one young lady came up to me because my daughter had told her what was going on. And she said to me, she said, "Oh, you are so blessed to have this diagnosis." And I had to stop. I said, "Oh, wow. Okay. What are you talking about?" She said, "You are going to have such a phenomenal testimony." She said, "You are going to have such a phenomenal story to tell." She said, "You don't see it now, but God is going to use you
Wow.
and use your story." And I said, I had to think about it. I had to work on it along with everything else I was thinking about. And in the middle of everything, at my lowest point, when I didn't even know I was here, I was on pain medicine that, they give the people to keep them comfortable as they pass. And they had me on those kinds of drugs at one point. But I kept hearing her in my ear. I kept hearing her prophecy. I kept hearing her, what she said about God using me and using us and our story. And faith, we couldn't have done any of the things we did or any of the things we're doing now without that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That I mean, I'm just because it's easy to talk faith
Oh, yeah.
when you're not being tried or put through, because you were put through that
You're
you
right.
yeah, you were put through. Yeah. I know that James says to count it all joy, but that was rough.
It was rough. When I first started writing the book and knew I wanted to write it, I was going to, it was going to be a Job story because that's what we were living.
Yeah.
It was just like Job, like one thing happened, then something else happened. Then people start turning their backs on us. Then people started giving up on us or up on me. And all I kept thinking was Job. Job did this. Job went through this. Losses, financial losses, just had to let all that stuff go. Um, Expecting people who we were close to show up and to help and didn't or couldn't or wouldn't or whatever, and feeling bad about that. But then I flipped it. Well, there was still Job, because then angels, I call them angels in the book, where people just started coming that we didn't know. But God sent them through just to do one thing. Some came and stayed. Some came and did one thing that was very helpful and also very hopeful. Um, and and then I started going from Job, just going through the Bible and looking at everybody who had been tested
Okay.
and who had been put through things. And as you said, count it all as joy. But some days it was not joy.
And believe me, I was just quoting the scripture because
Yeah, I
it's
know.
one thing to say
Yeah,
and let it just flow off my lips, but to live and walk the way you did.
yeah,
I've learned, and I've learned on this side of my life, which isn't necessarily young, that the Bible doesn't call me to feel, he calls me to believe. And I'm just wondering, in the midst of that, because basically they give you a death sentence, and then your husband, and you're dealing with all of that and moving, and like you said, people not doing what they're supposed to and giving up on you. Did you feel God, or you believed God? What did God do to let you keep going, or you felt like you would get to the other side, or you were believing to get to the other side? I don't know if my question's clear.
the question is clear and the answer is both.
Yeah.
I felt God. I could, when people, and I talk about that, we were surrounded, not physically, but there were prayer warriors and people that my one of my best friends since we were kids, she had this whole group of people in Ohio who knew me, we had grown up with, and they were doing a prayer circle for us all the time. And then my daughter's church, which was not far from where we were, they were doing prayer warriors, prayer circles or whatever. And it got to the point where I could feel the prayers. I could feel the warmth. I could feel the love. I could feel people thinking about us and hoping for us and praying for us. And then there were times when they had me on the drugs, the pain medicines.
Mhm.
And I wrote about it. There was this time I just totally gave up on my body. My body just became useless. It was a shell. They had so many tubes. I had lost so much weight, couldn't eat. I had a feeding tube. I had a water tube. I had all of these tubes, pain tubes, just every place. And so I just gave up on my body.
Wasn't that good? Thank you for blessing me. Be sure to come back for part 3, which will be the final part of the interview. Peace.